Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'll be reviewing Color Out of Space from Shudder. So Color Out of Space has just premiered recently on Shudder, and it is based on the classic H.P. Lovecraft story, The Color Out of Space. It's about this family that lives out in this rural farmstead, and something crash lands onto their property, and things start to change, things start to morph and get very psychedelic and ridiculous, and you start to see just this whole huge range of ridiculous things happen on their property. I have to say right away, this film is very stylized, and I think it benefits the film to a great degree. Some films are style over substance. This movie really hangs its hat on its style, and the style of H.P. Lovecraft. Big standout in this movie is Nicolas Cage. Every movie that he's in, he puts in 110%, and this is no exception to that rule. He becomes fully unhinged by the end of the film, but I love seeing him playing this kind of doting, loving, goofy, goofball father to becoming this ludicrous person by the end of the movie. And I think the movie really benefits from his over-the-top acting style that he does at times. Sometimes he's in movies and he's definitely giving his best, but it doesn't necessarily fit the film. This one fits the film to a T and definitely elevates it because of his performance. And like I said, this movie is very stylized, and the atmosphere that's created throughout the film is very well done. You have this very psychedelic effect happening. The alien that comes onto the property, I don't want to give too much away, but things start to really change. Things start to be glowing. Things start to have these little interesting looking funguses coming up. It reminds me a lot of, believe it or not, a movie that I don't think a lot of people like, but I enjoy, called Evolve, that came out many years ago, and you see the way that things are progressively evolving and changing. Now, you see that happen in this film, but it's done in a way that's far more macabre, and it's far more unsettling, because there's different animals on this property. He's running a farm, and these animals are becoming these grotesque creatures, and when they use practical effects for that, it works really well, in my opinion. They do use some CGI at times, not the best, because the film doesn't have the highest budget, obviously, but it doesn't look horrible. This movie shot mostly in the dark. All the bad events that are happening are at nighttime, and it doesn't look too bad when the animals, the creatures are running around in the dark. And the movie definitely does throw out a little bit of a gore factor, especially when you get into the second half of the film. I didn't know where it was going. When it first started, I thought it was going to be this strange E.T. type film. You're just seeing these creatures, something strange is happening, they're trying to communicate, but then it gets totally over the top and overblown, and I liked that it just went for it. The last 20 minutes of this movie is just bonkers, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that. Madeline Arthur, who plays the daughter in the film, there's a family unit, and I think that the characters don't have an absolute ton of depth to them, but you do connect with them because it is a family, and they do work together as a family dynamic playing off of each other. But I thought her performance was also pretty solid, especially towards the end when things are starting to really go south for them. I feel like she definitely holds up in the film. And one thing I will say without giving too many spoilers away, I love how this movie just totally blows up the scope of it. You think it's a small isolated event, this little town, just a couple people are being affected, and then you get this flashes of just something insane and ridiculous and just over the top and earth shattering. And I love that they did that. I love that it just goes for it. It goes to this huge scale, and it makes you think about, you know, the world and everything that goes around in the cosmos, and how one little thing could, you know, set off this domino effect. So I like that they went for that kind of theming towards the end. But that's not to say the movie isn't without its faults. It does have a little bit of a slow beginning, in my opinion. I do think that some of the characters are very shallow. There's also a character that comes in who's like a water inspector. He's a guy who's just there to check the watershed, to do some stuff that involves setting up a reservoir or something along those lines. And I thought his character was kind of dull, and he just feels like a plot point. Just throwing him in there as a plot device to move the story along, and he comes back and things like that. I just felt like that was an unnecessary character. But the family unit themselves and kind of this devolution into madness was really enjoyable to watch, especially by Nicolas Cage. So at the end of the day, I would give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. Really solid, a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I had no real expectations going into it. I was worried it was going to be a little cheesy. You know, sometimes when you see Nick Cage, you worry that the film might be, you know, not exactly up to snuff, but he's done some great horror films in the past, even recently, and I think this is another one you can just add his over-the-top bombastic acting into the ridiculousness of alien horror, and it's just a great combination. I think they really struck something with the balance between his acting, the story writing, the source material. It just had a really solid ending, and I really did enjoy the way it played out. So if you checked out this film on Shudder, or you're going to check it out, let me know what you thought about it. Maybe you thought it was a little bit too ridiculous. Maybe you thought it was a little too over the top and a little bit hard to follow, and everything starts to just unravel so quickly. But I did like that. I like the madness of the third act of the film. So leave those comments down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.